Fu, Rin, Ka, Zan. Fu, Rin, Ka, Zan. These 4 elements make up an unplayable trap card. But one Konami executive didn't get the memo that bringing out 4 different elements with no searching is very difficult to do. There was one Yugi tuber with his loyal and handsome subscribers who defied them. For you see, he makes custom, non-broken Yu-Gi-Oh cards, at least for the time period. And most of them are pretty good. In fact, this guy's pretty awesome. This Yugi tuber will fix the many problems of Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, you should check out more of his stuff. It's super cool, guys. Just like and subscribe. Do that thing. Yeah, like, subscribe. Here, I'll make it easy for you. Here's a button. Wait, I don't know how to program a button. Okay, he's not good at the YouTube stuff. Anyway, I'm off topic. No. This Yugi tuber will fix the many problems of early Yu-Gi-Oh! And with your help, he will become even more super awesome. This is Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh! Look, I don't know, that just makes me sound really conceited. Okay, well, I am conceited, but I don't want them to know that. Oh, we're recording. Hi! Welcome to Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we use basic game design and hindsight to fix the many issues of... Avatar? No, we fixed Yu-Gi-Oh! This script's fucked up. Why'd you do this? I'm your host, Prunk, and Avatar stole my idea. Like, when I was 6 years old, I basically wrote this script. It's in a little 70-page notebook that I don't have. Conveniently, I lost it after my trip to Florida. You know what's in Florida? Orlando. You know who's in Orlando? Well, probably not the executives of Avatar when I was 6 years old. I don't know. But bottom line is, what the hell? I'm waiting for my royalty check. All right, well, this isn't about how I secretly wrote Avatar Last Airbender. This is about fixing bad Yu-Gi-Oh cards and making them playable. And the keyword is playable. The cards we fix don't need to define the meta, but we need to give every card some kind of purpose, a path to success. Unlike this YouTube channel where I make random stuff every week and get excited about like 200 views. Hey, I'm happy with that. But you know what? 1,000 is cool. 1,000 subs is pretty cool benchmark. All right, am I done plugging that stuff yet? Okay, cool. I'm just going to make fun stuff. Anyway, let's talk about Rising Destiny. First off, Dakochi, the battle-chanted locomotive, is the main thing from this set that found meta success. Divine Wrath does later on, and some during this time. Monster Reincarnation was a big card, but it didn't quite hit the meta mark as it was a pretty slow card at this time. As for stuff that was kind of cool in theme, but didn't hit it, it was definitely the line of element cards that stopped the activation of trap cards when summoned. That's, I guess, why we did the Avatar intro. Harpies did get 3 cards that you couldn't actually use together, which was kind of disappointing. And they had decent effects so that you could side out the specific ones that you would need, but pretty much nobody used 2. I'm surprised I didn't get more questions asked about the Moki and Ancient Sanctuary episode, but honestly, because of these cards here, he does what he needs to do, and he doesn't quite get a fix. He doesn't really need it. It just makes a big Moki and you smack him down. The big Effin ships. It's BES. Well, there's only one, and I'm going to assume that BES stands for Big Effing Ships. And if it doesn't, it does now. What else about A-Team Trap Disposal? Okay, look, at this stage of the Yu-Gi-Oh, traps were just horrible, with the exception of like the same 3 to 4 that people would always play. But if this guy's on the field, then obviously you just don't activate the trap card. That's it. Ring of Destruction was broken, but if this card didn't quite fix that problem. So, much like our last set, this one does only have a 60 card set, but we actually have a lot to do here, because there are some cool concepts that just were never realized. So I'm actually excited about this, and I think we can actually fix a lot of it. So, let's start with the A disposal dude. Well, we kind of do have a hand trap already, like with Karibo, and I think that it is too soon to make this card a more traditional hand trap for what we get with like Ash Blossom or Max C and things like that. If we did that, this card would sure as hell see meta-relevant play today. Just being able to negate the activation of a trap with this card in your hand is, I think, really strong and should not exist. So, let's look at this guy, and let's just see what we can do to kind of fix him. But first off, he reads, this effect can be used during either player's turn. Okay. When your opponent activates a trap card, tribute this card face up to negate the activation of the trap card and destroy it. So I have to normal summon or somehow get out this level 2 machine, which, okay, machine duplication is a thing, but I'm probably not machine duping this guy just so that way I can negate the possibility of trap cards when Jinzo is a thing. And you have to tribute this guy. So I do want to stick with the hand. I think the hand stuff is important, but what I would do to fix this card is just simply say if a face-up machine monster is affected by a trap card, you may discard this card to negate the effect. Well, why trap? Well, we're going to basically be inheriting and indirectly buffing some of the other unions, and also the big F in ships by doing this. It gives unions and machines some support to be protected by the top tier trap cards. It does also kind of state things with like Jinzo, where machines aren't easily defeated by trap cards, and that can be a kind of a theme synergy. We also did stuff like that with the metal not metal foes, metal morph guys, yeah, like metal raider stuff, early fixing Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I say early, I've only been doing this for like 2 months. Making this a specific, hey, this guy will negate the traps from your hand, but only on machine decks. And I think that kind of buffs some of like the XYZ canon cards. It definitely buffs Jinzo. Cyber Dragons in the future are going to have those kind of plays, and with those big F and shifts that we're about to come out and release, that's just another support for machine types now. So I think it gives some life to some older decks, and I think it's going to buff a lot and be a playable card for a lot of machine cards in the future. And I don't see it if it's specifically for machines. I'm trying to think of like any newer archetypes that would definitely make this feel too overpowered. Maybe the Cyber Dragons because they are OTK like heavy. Just the fact that, hey, I have bottomless. Well, I have this guy in my hand, negate, and like you still lose because you brought out Cyber End Dragon with 8k attack. But then again, you feel, hey, like, yeah, I deck built because I want him. I didn't play this Cyber End Dragon until I knew I had A-Trap, so that way I can protect myself.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yup! You want to go do karate in the garage? Yup!
So I think that's fine. Just having these guys specifically protect your machine monsters only from trap cards, I should say. I think it's good, and it's discard. It's not broken. I think it's future-proof. It's fixed. It's approved. So big F and ships. Well, the first problem is that there's only one of these, and I want them to be an archetype, so I'm going to fix that. So now for our big F and ships, we are doing Locomotive, Machine King, Fusilier Dragon, and the heavy mech thing are now all big effing ships. But what does this archetype do? Well, core has, like the core vanilla gets 3 counters. So big F and ship, big core. If this card is normal summoned, place 3 counters. It cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step of this card battle, remove 1 card from this card. It cannot be, if you cannot destroy it. So it is a 3-turn timer of a 2300 attacker, basically, that it can't be destroyed by battle. That's okay. I mean, some of the ship stuff just not being able to be destroyed by effects or damage or stuff like that, I think is fine. And if we play that other A card that we just fixed, then it seems like okay. So we are playing with counters. So we're going to call them BES counters because big F and ship counters sounds pretty cool. And at the end of turn, remove a big F and ship card. I can't even keep a straight face with it sometimes. All right. If you please remove a big F and ship counter at the end of your turn. So what if some of these other cards, we can keep their similar effects, but we need to have some kind of synergy and support. So here's where I'm kind of going to get into more of the full retrains on these cards. All right. So for the retrains, let's take a look at Locomotive, Machine King, Fusilier Dragon, and Heavy Mech Thing. They're all now big F and ships. But what does this archetype do? So core kind of gets 3 counters, so we probably want to play something around those like BES counters. Maybe kind of improve what the Magicians have done with their counters, and let's see what we got. So Perfect Machine King is currently just a big tribute monster, so let's rename it as Perfect Big F and Ship. This card can be special summoned by removing 2 BES counters from the field. When this card is destroyed, place a BES counter on each machine on the field. So your opponent's cards, your cards. If it's a machine, it counts. That's kind of cool to kind of counter some people's Cyber Dragon stuff later on, because Cyber Dragon does become pretty big. We have this big monster that can be special summoned just by smacking or removing some counters. It's kind of in power line. It's still weaker than what we get with Invasion of Chaos, but I think it's fine. It's in a good power curve right here. BES Fusler Dragon. You can normal summon set this card without tributing, but its original attack is heft. This card was really used in like skill drain beatdown to basically normal summon a 2800 beat stick, but we're here to kind of combine it with our BES. When this card is destroyed, place a BES counter on each machine card on the field. Just sticking in theme. I think giving these guys all and spreading these counters around is really important. Heavy mech support platform. Now heavy BES, big effing shit, support platform. Once returned, you can either target one machine monster you control, equip this card to it, or unequip this card to special summon it. A monster equipped with this card gains 500 attack and defense. Also, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, destroy this card instead. Then place one BES counter on each machine card on the field. So, if this card is destroyed, put more counters down. So if this is attached to core, you have another chance for core to not be destroyed by a battle, which is kind of nice. So again, all these cards are kind of working together. A union, it's another union card that desperately needs some help, but it is a searchable now. It's a searchable union card because of the BES stuff that we're kind of doing. We're kind of giving some union some indirect support by doing this as well, and well, at least this union. And this card would probably see play, I think, at that point because it's something that is equipping. It is a searchable card because we did fix some of these other union cards in previous episodes. So this is starting to get a little bit better, and giving this an archetype to really play with is, I feel like, really important to keep these cards relevant. Now, probably the most contradictory option was Dekochi, the Battle Enchanted Locomotive. This card is used heavy in Chaos decks and just general. It's a great card. It is a decent stat line at 1400 attack and I think 1000 defense or something. The defense doesn't matter too much, but it is a flip draw one card. And if you happen to have the Bokochi Frightening Car, search your deck for you get to draw an extra card or something. It's not, that part's not relevant. Everyone used it for the draw one flip effect and a decent stat line, and it's a dark, so that's why this card is so good. Now, what we're going to add to this is when you have the Bokochi Frightening Car on the field, search your deck for a card that mentions a BS counter in its effect, in addition to the draw one card. So draw one card if you control face up, then search your deck for a card that mentions that. It's pretty good. It's a draw one and search for this archetype. So this card archetype is looking pretty consistent with these kind of combos. Now, this kind of gives the deck a reason to play that bad vanilla, in which we are going to change up a bit because at the moment, nobody's really resolving the secondary effects. You can machine duplication out the car and flip this guy up, but that's so much stuff to do to get that train played. It's not for very little reward. So, Bokochi the Frightening Car. My pitch is just, let's make you a field card. And you're probably like, wait, why are we going to make this normal vanilla a field card? Well, the way I would want to play this is it wouldn't be a normal vanilla anymore. I think just putting this as a field card for like the BES stuff. This is the caboose of the car. Like all these ships are being transported by these cabooses, kind of like my mindset, and like to keep it in theme. So this, I'm going to change it to a field card, and I'm just simply going to put, you may remove 3 BES counters from anywhere on the field to add a card that mentions BES counters in its effect. So this field card, this caboose, is now the deck searcher. All these different things that you are spreading tokens around on the field. Now keep in mind, these tokens only spread when you have other machines on the field. So you need to have something on the field to kind of benefit from these. So I think this can work. I don't really know how to build the deck too well, but I have some ideas. And I think with like a lot of these machine cards, they are just big cards. When you're destroyed, you're maybe putting like 1 or 2 tokens on something else. So I think we need a little bit extra to get these BES stuff rolling. And so here's my pitch for a more custom card. We have Pitch Black Power Stone, and I'm kind of just going to steal this for the machine counters for the BES counters. So this is going to be Machine Power Core. Look, the name's fine. Anyways, the purpose of this is the same thing. Create and spawn 3 machine tokens onto the field, or BES tokens onto the field. You can remove these. It's basically the exact same effect as Pitch Black Power Stone. And we can kind of put that in a theme of all these little cores and stones and stuff are going to be for the counters. I think any deck that has a counter should have some kind of card like this. So that way, in Archetype, they can play this specific trap. And your counters can come from this. And you can move counters to this card or from this card if you need to, if things do spread out. This card can be basically gain those machine, like BES counters. Is it good? No. Is it playable? Yeah. Let's continue. But before then, I think with this, we did give machines a high level consistency. They do play some really big monsters, and some of those big monsters can be just dropped in an instant, which is scary. They do have limiter removal, which is a brutal card, which will probably go back to the ban list at 1 with the introduction of these cards here. And when Cyber Dragons come out, I can just imagine some fun stuff really happening with this deck. So I think it's going to really like buff these guys up. So I don't think it's necessarily tier A, like A tier in this, but I don't think that they're going to become they would be a bad deck, and I do feel like machines haven't really gotten to see a core archetype. So Big Effin ships, it is your time to shine. Harpies. So I really want to know what's the worst case scenario if the 3 Harpy Lady cards, Harpy Lady 1, 2, and 3, were all just treated as Harpy Later, but could all be used, like all 9 of those cards be in the same deck. In early Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't see it as any kind of problem whatsoever. I've scratched my head over it, and I can't even imagine a way that this breaks the game by allowing these 9 Harpy Ladies kind of into the deck. And looking over the structure decks with like the win stuff that comes out later on, I just don't see this breaking any meta. So I am going to kind of help change some things with these Harpies to get them played. So that way, because everyone already plays just one, I believe it's Harpy Lady 1, the one that gains stats for everybody. That's really the only Harpy Lady that people were playing. Harpy Vanilla is still there. That's totally fine because it's power. Now we are in the stage of power creep. We are well past the 1-year mark of, hey, this card was relevant for a year. We can move on and get some power creep going. So I think the fix here is technically on Elegant Egotist because that's kind of what limits them in the first place. Because the Elegant Egotist basically just says if Harpy Ladies is on the field, special summon a Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters from your hand or deck. So I think that instead of just saying if Harpy Lady is on the field, we want to specify if a Harpy Lady is on the field. Harpy Lady being, or Harpy essentially being the card name, and we could probably just cut off lady. I'm not sure what this like logistics of how we have to form this card. Maybe Harpy is the key like word in terms of the archetype, so that way people are searching for Harpy Lady or Harpy instead of Harpy Lady. Harpy, add a Harpy card, add a like that spelling. That's the archetype. I think that's how it works. My fix for Elegant Egotist: if a Harpy Lady is on the field, special summon 1 Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters from your hand, deck, or hand or deck. So now you can spawn out 1, 2, and 3 instead if you need to. So let's say you have Harpy Lady 1 on the field. You play Elegant Egotist. Now I need to get 3 out. So I'm going to do Harpy Lady 1 to get to Harpy Lady 3. And I think that's all right. And also, like Harpy Lady 1s, 2, and 3, we're just going to get rid of the, like, this card's name is always treated as Harpy Lady because I don't think there's a way to break these cards by having them all in one deck together. Playing 9 copies of Harpy Lady, yeah, I mean you can get the Harpy Lady Sisters out really strong. Maybe Harpy's Pet Dragon can get really big now. Is that broken for this time period? I just don't think so. I don't think there is a way to put these 9 cards in one deck and really break the meta, or hell, even with this change, I don't think it's really going to be that competitive compared to what's already out. So I think that just changing those names will allow them all to be played, allow people to play a pure Harpy deck, which is kind of cool, and get some of those win monsters out, and hopefully we kind of helped raise archetypes up a little bit more where now everyone's not just playing Chaos. Hey, machines actually stand a chance, or Harpies, we could probably do something with them now. So I think they're fixed. But I could be completely wrong. Please let me know in the comments. I am genuinely curious. Is there something broken if we allow Harpy Lady 1, 2, and 3 to be all treated as just individual monsters and not just Harpy Lady? So the elements. Now onto these kind of elemental cards, and I really don't have a better name for them. There's an element of every card that has the following effect. When this card is normal summoned successfully, no trap cards can be activated. We also have a few cards like Element Magician, Saurus, and Elemental Dragon, or Element Dragon from Soul of the Duelist. So, in the intro, we kind of indicated Fu Rin Ka Zan, which is a trap card that says when there are a face-up wind, water, fire, and earth monsters on the field, apply one of these effects. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Discard 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, or draw 2 cards. It is a Regeki, it is a Harpies Feather Duster, it is a Delinquent Duo, or it is a Pot of Greed. A really cool card, the fact that it's all in one, with a near impossible condition to actually activate. Let's see if we can fix it, not make it too broken, but I want to be able to play this card. And then, like, again, they are all just really powerful effects. So, and I know that there are a few cards that can basically trigger it automatically. Elemental Mistress Doriado can actually meet this solo, which is kind of fun. And she does come out in Lost Millennium, which is a few sets. Elemental Hero Electrum eventually meets this condition, which is kind of cool. He comes out way later. Let's make these weird cards something special. So we got Eagle Eye, who's a wind. We got Tactical Espionage Expert, who is an earth. Invasion of Flames is a fire. Creeping Doom Mantra is a water. Pitch Black Warwolf is a dark. And Mirage Dragon a light. There's also this Homunculus, the Alchemic Being, which is kind of cool and just gives me my Brotherhood, Alchemist, whatever. God, I can't think of it anymore. I've been talking for a while. Full Metal Alchemist. Oh my god, I'm going to get roasted for that. So Full Metal Alchemist vibes from this guy for obvious reasons. So he can change his attribute, which is kind of cool, but we got to figure out what we need to call these guys. Well, my vote is Furin Kazan. It's just one word. My extensive Google research has basically led me down to this wiki page, and it was good enough for me, and basically it just means wind, forest, fire, mountain, which is a popularized version of battle standard used in the Sengoku period. I can't pronounce those words. So, but it basically quotes, it's a banner that quotes the 4 phrases from Sun Tzu's The Art of War: as swift as the wind, as gentle as a forest, as fierce as fire, and as unshakable as a mountain. We are man. Alright, I love Mulan. It was one of my favorite movies and has the best soundtrack of any Disney movie, period. So, Furin Kazan is now an archetype. So, Furin Kazan Eagle for the wind, Furin Kazan Tactical Espionage, Furin Kazan Flames, Furin Kazan Doom Mantra, Furin Kazan Warwolf, Furin Kazan Mirage Dragon. Woo! Okay. So, weird name, but you know what? You guys come up with something better. I don't know what to tell you. The idea behind these guys is that they all get to keep their effects of, hey, when they are normal summon, traps are unaffected by them, or they're unaffected by traps, or they can't be activated. So Bottomless, they're weak enough. Bottomless doesn't actually do anything. Torrential, they're basically anti-torrential cards. It's not the best normal summon kind of effect, but whatever. We don't need to change much. All of them are around like 1,300 attackers. So I think that the way we can kind of synergize these guys a little bit is, while you control a monster with a different attribute than this one, gain 600 attack. They're all 1,300, so they end up becoming a 19 if you have 2 on the field. That is pretty good. And I think just giving them a stronger stat line when they are meeting that condition is fine. But the reason I'm playing these is because I want to play with Homunculus, the Alchemic Being. This guy just looks like a boss monster, so let's make him one. And we're going to try and fit the attribute themes and kind of make him more elemental. As far as those Furankanzan cards, I felt like I had a few different ideas with them before I go into Homunculus. I felt like, hey, what if we made these guys floaters for each other, and they had to pick out a different attribute? So they're kind of giving us like a early Yang Zing kind of vibe where they just float amongst each other. That was an option that I kind of opted out against. I just think that having 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 cards that all float with each other in early Yu-Gi-Oh was too strong. And I just don't want to play that kind of annoying kind of deck. I don't think it's fun. And yeah, I just don't think that works that well. But you can kind of splice them up to, hey, which one of these would I rather play? I need a few of them. And Homunculus is basically saying that this guy is going to become a fusion card. And his materials require 2 monsters of different attributes. And maybe we should say, hey, let's make Furunkazan 2 different Furunkazan monsters to make sure that this card stays in theme. slightly against that though right now because I do feel like this card being a fusion summon could be splashed into a lot of different decks if we keep it without the condition. So making this a generic fusion may actually be the better option. So this is one of the few cards that I feel like I've made for an archetype where I think that making it a generic is okay. It allows polymerization to be a lot more flexible, and this card becomes much more of a utility card. So this card gains the effects based on the attributes of monsters that were used in its fusion summon. You may only activate each effect once. So if I say use the fire and water guy, this guy, fire, when this card is fusion summoned, destroy a monster on the field. Water, when this card is fusion summoned, destroy a spell or trap on the field. Wind, fusion summoned, return one card from its field to the owner's hand. It's just a bounce effect, which I think is really cool because it can target your card or your opponent's card. Earth, when this card is fusion summoned, draw one card. Ooh, alright. So fusion summon getting to draw one off of this guy is kind of cool and hits a big monster. That's really cool, especially if you get to pop something along with it. I feel like this card can actually see some really competitive play because all these cards individually are really strong, and it gives polymerization a reason to be played. Light and Dark. This is my kicker. I'm putting them together for a reason because Light and Dark is already so powerful, and I think that because they don't quite fit the Furankazan's individual elements, I labeled them together, and this just says banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. So if you're going to be splashing in polymerization, it's going to be a relatively weaker effect with chaos. And I'm sending a light and dark to the graveyard, I get to banish a card from your graveyard. Hey, I have a light and dark in my graveyard now. Let me CED out whatever I need to do. So I gave them a relatively weaker effect, and I paired it together that you only get the one when they're used together. And I think that fits the elemental theme with this card, but it still allows it to be a generic card to be played in anything. And also, in a lot of Chaos decks, I think people would start splashing in some Earths just because, hey, I get that extra draw one. And people are playing like Torrential or not, Exiled Force, and they're like Chaos decks because it was such a big card that people might actually use that with polymerization. And I think this card could be really cool. As far as its stat line, I think like a 2400 attacker is fine, and maybe like 1000 or 1200 defense. The defense doesn't matter as much, but getting that effect out, making this guy basically a monarch, which has to be fusion summoned, I think is actually really cool, and I think it would see some play. So that's it for Rise of Destiny. We got some elemental synergy. Admittedly, the Furankazan cards I don't think are that good, and if this guy the Punkulus does end up being like a generic card, then I still think that they probably wouldn't see much play. So I think we could probably introduce some more of those in the future to kind of give them a boost. Let me know what your thoughts are, because I don't know what would be a really good fix. I also considered like having all the Furankazan cards being able to be discarded, so that way they could be like, and to give another card its attribute. But then I'm like, well, if you play polymerization, then that doesn't really do anything for these guys anyways. So I'm really curious. Tell me, what would you guys do for the Furankazan cards? For all these cards that are kind of immune to the traps, what do we do to give them that elemental feel? Should they have bonus effects if another one is? I think the stat boost was a kind of an easy win for him. That way they can become bigger than most other cards if you have multiple pairs of them. But I don't know. I really didn't have a good solution for these guys, so I am curious about what you guys would think. But we gave them a cool fusions. Harpies I think are going to be fine as well. And Big Effin ships are cool. I'm excited about those as well. And we just gave some machines some support. So we got to fix 3 archetypes that really needed the help. We got machines, we got Harpies, and we got like random elemental stuff. So we got to steer away from some chaos stuff, and hopefully people will play some cool stuff now. So this is going to end our episode. Thank you again all. Please like, subscribe, share the video, do all the YouTube stuff, and thank you again. Appreciate all the love and support. Take care, y'all.